Hi, welcome. It has been a short while again, but here we are reunited for the Scorpio full moon eclipse. I don't think that there could be a more apt time to return to a collective reading, but I can also share that I've been deeply in need of reconnecting with some form of practice, spiritually speaking, to ground myself. And also to be of service, because at the end of the day, I do this to be of service to you, but also to myself, in full disclosure. Um, yeah, sometimes we can just kind of drift off into the mundane, and it can leave us really scratching our heads as to why we're here. And of course, when the outside world is filled with the illusion of darkness, that encourages us to give more space to the darkness and less conscious awareness of the light. And it's only by doing work collectively in collaboration that we can really transcend that darkness. And so that is why I'm here doing this video right now. And I hope that it finds you when you need it. The energy of a full moon eclipse can be felt for about 6 months after. The best way to look at it is that the 3 months after the eclipse tend to be where the seeds are planted, or, in the couple of weeks leading up to it, you may have started to feel those themes. And then they sort of come to fruition in the second part, in the last 3 months of that influence, or sooner, depending on what else is going on in your life, but also obviously in your astral chart. And this one's a big one, because full moons do bring about conscious and subconscious endings, and the subconscious endings tend to be brought up to the surface, so that we can properly integrate them into our conscious awareness. And I'm feeling it based on my astrology with my Taurus rising. It's very much manifesting in my professional relationships, and probably, the reality is that I doubt very much that by the beginning of August, when that 3 month period will have come to its peak, well, it's highly unlikely that I'll still be doing what I am still currently doing, which, if you've followed my videos in the last year, you will know that I have consistently been frustrated and challenged by my professional life and the relationships that I've had to endure through that. And I'm getting to that place where it's like, I can't do it anymore. Honestly, my mental health, my sense of connection to life force is so diminished at this point. It's been a real roller coaster ride, and I have really tried hard to find the gratitude and the value in everything that I've experienced. But there does come a point when we have to be mindfully committed to our own well-being, to our own growth, and that requires leaps of faith. And full moon eclipses are perfect times for setting intention into the tangible. We're not talking about just ideas at this point. We're talking about a very tangible commitment. But because of the current astrology, and you may be feeling this yourself, not forgetting, of course, that the full moon in Scorpio is also with Taurus season, we're coming to the tail end of the nodes being in Taurus, the nodes of the moon being in Taurus and Scorpio. So we are also coming to a climax, a conclusion of that karmic cycle. So again, something to really contemplate right now. Where do you stand um, in your now I'm like having a complete like weird out of time and space moment where I can't even remember. Are we still in the Scorpio Taurus nodes, or have we already moved on to? I honestly, I cannot tell you. I feel like we're still in. You know what? Why don't I just make sure that I'm not crazy while I'm talking to you? Um, let's see. Well, thank goodness. Yes, I'm not completely crazy. They will enter Aries and Libra on July 17th. So I am correct, thank goodness, because I was really feeling as though I might have gone a little nuts. Um, so, this has been our journey since January of last year, more or less an 18-month cycle. And you have to think about what has changed in your life in that time. Um, how do you ground yourself? How do you feel connected to the earth? How have you evolved in your relationship to death, to um, to spirituality? For me, it's interesting because I could say that in many ways I've wrestled with my relationship to spirituality because I went down a very esoteric path, particularly in the last half of the 2010s, um, and then through the pandemic, obviously there was really a great sense of personal reckoning, and then finding myself in the collective, finding that transcendence that we all kind of had to find. And then, of course, we found ourselves coming out of that and everything allegedly returning to normal. And we all know that nothing has turned back to the way it was. It cannot, because the illusion was shattered. But um, it's been a very confusing time. And you would think that spirituality would have been the grounding force of that time for many of us, but it's actually been more of a struggle, I think, than anything else. So, in these concluding months of the Taurus Scorpio nodes of the moon, we are probably going to find a resurgence of that. And it's deepened by Pluto going retrograde. It's in Aquarius, but it will go back out of Aquarius, um, and eventually come back into Aquarius for a long stay. But basically, over the last couple of months, we've had a little bit of a taster of what Pluto in Aquarius means. And in all honesty, it really hasn't been that pleasant to experience. I mean, in the big picture, seeing the collapse of our um, economic pillars that are corrupt um, um, is a necessity. And of course, we hope will give way to a more fair and kinder world. But the chaos and turmoil that we have to experience in order to shift into whatever comes next is not pleasant, and we are just getting, a taste of that. But with Pluto going retrograde on the 1st, which is tomorrow, 1st of May, at the time that I'm recording this, um, there may be a little bit of I wouldn't say a respite, but perhaps a little period of time for us to get our bearings. And as big shifts and endings may come to pass for us individually in the months ahead as a result of this full moon eclipse, I'd say focus on bringing as much joy into the present moment as you possibly can. Try to remain in the present moment as much as you can, and trust. Trust. At the time of the eclipse, we will also have Venus squaring Neptune, and Venus is in its last days of being in Taurus before it moves into Gemini. Obviously, it's exalted was in his home in Taurus. So, and square with Venus is not a bad thing. Squares can be very challenging with certain planets like Saturn and Pluto, in particular, Uranus as well. But Venus and Jupiter squares and oppositions tend to be just kind of enhancements of their properties. So something to remember. But where am I going with this? Oh, Neptune is in Pisces, which is also exalted. So there's kind of this dreamy, lovey energy that also surrounds this. And when I say lovey, it could be romantic if that's what you're seeking, but it's really about a connection to the things that we love, feeling like we may return into more of a sense of finding things that are our true calling and passion. Perhaps that's why I've been drawn back to doing some spiritual work collectively. Who knows? I think I've probably spoken enough about the astrology, even though this whole reading is around the influences of this eclipse. But as I haven't pulled any cards, let's go ahead and shuffle them. I really feel like I've been very disconnected from my practice. I've pulled out the cards to do a reading for myself, tarot, the other day, and it was like Spirit was laughing at me, going like, yeah, this is going to be like really on the nose, just to remind you of the value of this work. And of course, that's exactly what it is. And I'm pretty sure that the card that we need is Canary Spirit, because it did drop out and it keeps appearing as I'm shuffling. I say that and now it's not there, so whatever. Oh, No, instead, we're going with two Spirit Animal Oracle cards. I know we haven't been doing those, but I decided to return to tradition, where it all started for me, because these were the decks that I used when I first started reading. So we have number 32, Hawk Spirit, Let Spirit Be Your Guide, and number 5, Bat Spirit, A Rebirth is Assured. So I will read from both because the wisdom of these decks is always precious and clarifying. Start with Hawk Spirit. Flying high above the landscape, the hawk sees both the big picture and the small details, observes the rain and the pond as well as the cloud, and doesn't miss anything. When Hawk Spirit arrives, you are called to pay close attention to messages from Spirit that can appear anywhere in any form. Listen to your intuition and keep your eyes open for synchronicities, the meaningful coincidences. Hawk Spirit asks you not to dismiss the signs that Spirit is sending to guide you. Lately, have you been hearing the same word or song or coming across the same symbol here, there, and in the strangest places? Perhaps you hear a song on the radio with just the right lyric pertaining to your query, or you begin to notice uncanny billboards, license plates, or other places where repetitive numbers or words show up for you to notice. Pay attention to the animals that appear for you and connect with their symbolism. Spirit wants to communicate and reaches out again and again. When Hawk Spirit appears, it's a sign to listen. And I have been having a lot of that resurface. And it is true that when we reconnect, when we're open to it, first of all, I will tell you, be kind to yourself if you have not been open to Spirit for a period of time and you do reopen yourself to it, or if you've been protective or in sort of an Eight of Swords, I don't trust anything, I can't trust myself, I can't trust anyone else, whatever it may be, because the tricksters will come in and try to stop you from getting back into it. In fact, just before I started this reading, I mean, it was a comedy of errors. I basically spilled my drink all over the place. I entangled my Newton's cradle to the point where I decided that I was going to try to untangle it, and it made me so pissed off and annoyed with the whole thing that I ended up tearing it apart and throwing it in the trash. Um, And I felt angry and frustrated. And today, all day long, even though my intention was set to do this at some point, and it is quite late when I'm doing this, it's 10 p.m. now. Um, I, I had like my hormones felt off. I felt like I had very low energy. I didn't want to do anything. I was trying to force myself to um, snap out of it. Eventually, in the late afternoon, I got around to working out so that I would at least circulate some energy in my body and get rid of whatever was feeling so lethargic and depressive, to be perfectly honest with you, disconnected, basically because I had 2 days where I worked from home on Thursday and Friday, and then a weekend off. And while I have been bothered by my work consistently throughout all of that time, not having to go out to my workplace, which is quite far from where I live, was an alleviation. But I also felt incredibly alone throughout this time because, well, I mean, I've talked about this before, but and it, you know, uh, I have poor friendships. I have poor relationships because I don't feel nurtured by them. I don't feel that people really consider my needs. And of course, I can't expect other people to consider my needs, but I live alone. I live far away from my family. Um, I if the people I know that are in my boat that I've encountered in my life, I've always embraced the idea that I want to make sure that they feel that they're supported and that somebody is there for them, no matter what, whatever it is that they need, if they feel that need. And for me, I can find myself in aloneness, and it's not like I feel lonely in the sense of like, oh my God, I'm all alone and I'm disconnected from everything or whatever. I mean, there can be pangs of that, but more than that, I feel sad that this great human experience that I've had is not really that valued by anyone else. Um, and at the risk of sounding arrogant, I mean, I'm like, I'd kill to like meet somebody like me and have a me in my life. So maybe that just makes me a giant narcissist. But you know, I care a lot. And I'm shocked at how little other people really care. Or at least I don't think it's a conscious lack of care. I think it's more that they're just so self-involved. Um, and that's the culture that we live in. So again, I can't target people, but it is kind of shocking to me that I can go days on end and not have any engagement in my life. So anyway, I digress. But all of that to say that it was really affecting my sense of being able to tap into the energy required for, or the headspace for doing a collective reading. It took me a long time to get there, and the tricksters were there until the very end trying to stop it from happening. But I prevailed and decided I was going to get there no matter what. I even have a kind of crushing headache, but I'm like, I don't care. We're going to do this. There's a lot to share, and spirit will come through. So here we are. And here's a protection message, because that may be able to shine some light on what I just said too. Are you noticing red flags, perhaps saying to yourself, oh, what pretty flags, and giving them no more thought? Hawk Spirit has arrived to tell you to stop and listen to the message from Spirit. Take the time to observe the patterns you are seeing and do not dismiss your intuition, even if the messages you receive are not supported by evidence in the physical world. If it feels illogical to listen right now, listen anyway. Sometimes you might want certain signs and messages to mean what you want them to mean, interpreting through the lens of wishful thinking, a projection of your desire to see things a certain way. Of course, when you do that, you rarely find yourself where you want to be. Take heart. Spirit loves you so much and does not want you to get hurt, but to align with Spirit's plan for your highest good. Listen and follow the signs, and check your motives when you are being selective with your hearing. Um, and I'm feeling a lot of that when it comes to my job, because I'm just like, oh my God, like I don't want to make myself, I don't want to cut myself off from a decent income. Um, it's all economic, not very spiritual, and sometimes you just gotta fucking pull the cord, right? You just have to like trust. I mean, I can't spend the rest of my life thinking that because, well, the rest of my life, but the rest of this period of time waiting for economic recession to take hold and for everyone to be unemployed, and therefore just think to myself that I should like stay put and keep myself small. I mean, I have like passions that are dying. I'm dying because everything I do is so meaningless and purposeless. So let's move on to Bat Spirit, because that'll be uplifting. After something has run its course and died or been released, finished, surrendered, completed, or ended, there is a promise of a new beginning. Rebirth is assured just as night gives way to dawn and the bat emerges from the darkness of a womb-like cave. Bat Spirit has come to remind you that this rebirth is a miraculous one, for the very best elements of what you had to give up in the death of the old are still present in the new, amazing life forming now. This is the miracle and magic of rebirth in every aspect of your life, including the rebirth of faith in your ability to establish new and healthy relationships. Bat Spirit reminds you that at present you are in unknown territory and may feel as if you are lost. Well, this is speaking to me. I don't know about you. However, you are called to trust that your intuition However, you are called to trust that your intuition will be a reliable guide as you give birth to something new and unfamiliar. Bat Spirit has listened in the darkness of the night and has heard all your hopes and dreams, your fears and worries, and assures you that this new version of your dream, this move from darkness into light, from lost to found and death to rebirth, comes to fruition with love at its core. Bat Spirit asks you to trust that what seems to have died is actually shape-shifting into something even more meaningful and wondrous than before. If you feel you're in the dark, know that come morning all will be revealed and things will be in a new form that is right for you. I don't need to read the protection message on that one because I know that that's exactly what we need. Trust your intuition, right? I need a drink, sorry. It's sparkling water and kombucha, remember? I'm not drinking alcohol while I'm doing a reading. I will take a White Light Oracle card. You know, these ones are like on another planet because they really are like intense and deal with things that are extremely esoteric and not always as accessible. But I feel that there's always something to learn in having an experience of something that I'm going to take this one because it's like, what have I done now? No, I gotta keep shuffling, sorry. Let's see, that's what my guides are telling me. Keep shuffling, keep shuffling, keep shuffling. Eventually the right one will come out. But it is a weird deck, I admit. Especially because it gives a meditation practice to do, and I don't really feel comfortable doing meditation practice on camera. But anyway, we got 7 Blessings of Eve. The big snake. Like a penis going into a vagina. That's the light, see? It's the sacred feminine. I'm not a perv, I'm just saying what I see. Okay. Ready? Whoa. The font. The font. The dreaded font. A spiritual gift shall enter your heart and manifest as a blessing in your life. You have innate talents and abilities which will support your soul into full, glorious manifestation. You have been blessed with a beautiful divine destiny to fulfill. You have natural healing ability. Choose your thoughts and words so they reflect what you truly wish to put out into the world, because your influence is stronger and further reaching than you realize. Eve dwelled in the original paradise, the Garden of Eden. She is the mother of knowledge. From knowledge, wisdom can develop. Wisdom is the egg of Sophia, the divine feminine power to be a birth mother of higher consciousness, to bring forth the light of loving awareness. Eve's oracle is not an omen of being cast out of paradise. It's a sign that a false view, which has been holding you captive, is going to give way to a greater understanding, which will empower you to be a bearer of the light, a priestess or priest of the egg of Sophia. This oracle encourages you to seek the knowledge you need, to not be held captive by secrets or misinformation, and to know that from that knowledge you shall be able to shed false views, like a snake shedding its skin, and grow in wisdom. You shall know what you need to know, and find your way in truth. The oracle also indicates a shift away from shame and confusion, perhaps feeling that you have something to prove, or that you are not enough, or that you have to atone for a failing in this or other lifetimes. Instead, your soul is moving you towards a realization of the inherent goodness and grace that is your real nature. You are blessed. You are granted a unique, unrepeatable human life. Even if you believe in reincarnation, acknowledging the soul continues to grow over many lifetimes. There will only be one lifetime when you are this you. If you treasure this life, you will become bolder, more fearless, more willing to step up as your real self, more willing to engage in healing and say yes to what makes your heart sing. There is a rabbinic saying that every time a human being walks down the street, a choir of angels cries, make way, for the image of God is approaching." Loving humanity is not always easy, especially when the darker sides of human nature cause such suffering. Yet there is much heroism, love, kindness, and nobility too. Look to the positive and open your heart to the best in yourself and those around you. Choose to see and nurture the spiritual light in yourself and others to the best of your ability. We are all growing and evolving in our own way. Even those who trouble your heart are doing their best. Acknowledge that humans have limited capacities and deserve compassion and a chance to awaken spiritually nonetheless. Do not, however, allow yourself to become a doormat to anyone's ego games. Entrust the spiritual progress and protection of all beings to the divine feminine, as you care for yourself and others as consciously as you can. Certain numbers have a sacred significance that crosses religious and cultural boundaries. 7 is one such number, with significance in Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Jainism, Buddhism, Baha'al. What's Baha'al? Why do I know what Baha'al is? I'm crazy. That's why. And the New Age. The spiritual power of 7 includes a natural charisma and capacity to be an influential channel for higher wisdom. Now, the presence of 7 is a sign from the universe to reconnect to the sacred. The oracle of the 7 blessings of Eve is a reminder that you are a sacred being and have no need to hold yourself hostage to shame, blame, guilt, anger, judgment, or fear. Acknowledge your connection to spiritual knowledge. Pray and your prayers shall be answered. And again, this is so topical and so necessary and so in alignment with this eclipse, because what is it that keeps us tethered to things that we don't actually want in our lives? The things that we feel beholden to, the things that we feel a duty to have to uphold, even though they go against our heart's core energetic flow. Because we're in fear, because we are in shame, because we chastise ourselves the way that we have been chastised. It's all built on trauma, right? So we have to use the energy of the moon. We have to use the energy of the planets, of the sun, to our advantage when they give us those opportunities. And this is a portal, an eclipse, a lunar eclipse in Scorpio, especially this particular one, is a huge portal in releasing ourselves from feeling that we have to make ourselves small in order to accommodate somebody else's vision. They're entitled to their vision, but you are entitled to yours. And if they're not on the same page, you got to snip it, you know? You have to at least make the first steps towards it when the energy is right for it. And this eclipse is a good time to set that intention and to make the first steps, even if those are just private ones that only you are aware of. Okay, let's do a little tarot. I think I'll just use my Rider-Waite because that's what I used for my personal reading. It was on fire, and oh, it just flew out. 5 of Swords, ego struggles. 6 of Swords, walking away from those battles because they don't really serve, do they? The Tower. Tower comes in, you know, we're always afraid of towers. We shouldn't be afraid of towers. Towers are opportunities. 6 of Swords came out again, so I'm going to take that as an underlying energy here. The Tower comes when we resist the change that life has put on our path because we're afraid, because we're thinking too small, because we don't think highly enough of ourselves, or because we empower others over our lives, which ends up making us feel like this: very weary, tired, broken, overwhelmed, overdrawn. And so Tower is really divine intervention to correct the path. We come in as the Page of Swords when we receive the Tower, because we come in with that desire to learn, that desire to reset, that desire to find ourselves at the beginning of a path, to surrender to being at the beginning of a path. You know, if we come to the beginning of a new chapter thinking that we know it all, we can't learn and we won't have a good experience. Judgment is divine intervention. So we actually haven't had the Tower come out in the actual reading so far, but judgment is where it ends up. I'm taking the judgment to be the eclipse. That is in the timeline so far. I'm doing 3, 3, and 3. So 3 leading up in the past. We have the 9 of Wands, the Page of Swords, and the Judgment card. This is definitely a strong sense of release from a burden. And obviously, as I said, our underlying energy is the 6 of Swords. So that is moving away from problems, moving away from troubled waters, moving away from subconscious fears, the things that hold us back, and patterns, behavior patterns, you know, trauma-based behavior. So it's pretty nice to be moving towards new horizons that are calmer and better suited to us. We may not know what they are yet, but let's move into the present energy. Okay, we move into the Page of Wands, which the Page of Wands is also a learner, but in this case, this is an inspired learner in the sense of being playful, of allowing joy to come back into a perhaps relatively joyless landscape that we may have been living in for some time because we've been trapped in fear and shame and guilt. the death card at the center of our reading. So, an ending. Again, remember that this reading really covers a 6-month period, but I can't give you an exact timeline as to how quickly things will happen in your life. And I can assure you, if you don't go with where the endings need to be, then the towers probably will appear to make those transitions in the divine order as they need to happen. And of course, yes, you have free will, but to resist is generally futile because there are certain things that we just have to move into, right? Can I have one more card for the energy we're moving into? Oh dear. I can't take those cards because the Lover's card did fall on the ground, but I can't take it because it wasn't really. I wasn't really sure what direction it was, whether it was upside down or. But if it wants to come out, it will. What do we have here? Well, we have the Two of Cups and the Wheel of. Well, underneath it is the Wheel of Fortune and the Chariot. So these cards came out together. I guess we'll interpret them together. Two of Cups, of course, can be the idea of love or mirror, soul mirror, but I mean, essentially that doesn't have to be limited to romantic love. It can be a renewal following the death energy of simply coming into a place where we see our heart in others, where we seek heartfulness in others, where we find our mirrors in the world around us rather than being in resistance and repulsion. I certainly have been in that space for quite some time, where I'm just repelled by so much because people can be pretty awful, but then when you start just focusing on that, then that's what you receive too, right? So that's what this is. It's really like a power of manifestation card. It's law of attraction, but in the positive way, reinforced, of course, with a Wheel of Fortune. With the Wheel of Fortune following the Death card, pretty much guaranteed a shift of fate, whatever that may mean. I mean, if you've been at the top of your game, shift of fate can just be not necessarily like finding yourself at the bottom, but clearing that energy out so that you can start growing with something else. Whatever it is, there's a big shift. The Chariot does imply also pretty drastic movement and motion. So, I mean, in a more mundane, literal interpretation, I could look at that and be like, whoa, you're going to meet somebody while you're traveling. But because we're trying to focus on the bigger picture, spiritual soul journey, it's I'm gonna look at it more as being open to seeing the better, the best, or um, seeing love in others, whatever that means to you. A softening of the vision in order to invite more into your process, your experience, so you can have better experiences, so you can have more fulfilling experiences, so that we finally find ourselves feeling satisfied and curious about our, I said satisfied, and that was the Nine of Pentacles, but it didn't really come out, so I'm not going to take it. We have the Nine of Cups instead, which is even better because this is an emotional fulfillment. So now we're moving into our future energy. So the outcome, what this eclipse leads us to. The Nine of Cups is when all of our cups are full and we feel emotionally fulfilled. We feel self-sufficient emotionally because we are giving and receiving in equal measure. So a natural progression from what we were just talking about, and certainly one that I think we could all use after this very bizarre period of time. And here we go. Okay, well, there's that tower. The tower comes. Now I have to reinterpret like how we're looking at this future, because it came out with the moon and the Six of Pentacles. So I'm going to tell you what these cards together mean to me. They mean to me that there's an interruption from this sense of, because we have this sense of fulfillment, we can take a leap of faith that gets rid of what isn't meant for us in our lives. Because the tower never destroys anything that is meant for us. Does that make sense? Like, if it's meant to be, it will remain. There may be a test, but it will remain. But the way that this comes out with the moon, of course, remembering that the moon is also like an invitation to intuition over lunacy. Of course, as spiritually evolved people, we aspire to intuitive power over losing our minds to the emotions brought on by the moon, the subconscious overwhelming us. So, and then the Six of Pentacles being there is our balance of give and take in the world. What we give, what we receive. So there's some kind of a shift. I'm going to take a final outcome card, because there's some kind of shift here that we're moving towards. We attain this sense of balance emotionally in ourselves. We finally regain a sense of emotional strength that's mirrored back to us. And then it allows us to make some pretty radical changes in our lives that we've been afraid to make. Feel like we've all been clinging on to whatever we can cling on to, because we're afraid. The Five of Pentacles poverty consciousness card keeps poking out to remind me that's really what we don't want to fall back into, right? And we get a victory card, Six of Wands, as our outcome. I have no idea what that victory is. I have no idea what that weird noise was that just came out of my mouth. What was that? Very odd. But it's like I'm not Chinese. I mean, I did grow up in Hong Kong, so nice. Four of Wands. Okay, so the ultimate outcome is that we get to rebuild foundations for ourselves that actually suit our heart needs. I can't go into specifics with that, but I'd say that's a pretty needed message. I am going to take one Osho card for the outcome so that we can have something to meditate upon. That one came flying out. What do we have? Ten of Water, Harmony. Also a nice card to have in our reading. Where's the book? Oh. 10 of Water. 116. Ready? Do you want to look at me or the card? I'll put the card up there. Pretend that's me. Oh, it's hard for me to hold it up and read for some reason. The experience of resting in the heart in meditation is not something that can be grasped or forced. It comes naturally as we grow more and more in tune with the rhythms of our own inner silences. The figure on this card reflects the sweetness and delicacy of this experience, The dolphins that emerge from the heart and make an arc towards the third eye reflect the playfulness and intelligence that comes when we are able to connect with the heart and move into the world from there. This is literally the conclusion of our reading. It's perfect. Let yourself be softer and more receptive now, because an inexpressible joy is waiting for you just around the corner. Nobody else can point it out to you, and when you find it, you won't be able to find the words to express it to others. But it's there, deep within your heart, ripe and ready to be discovered. I'm putting it down because I can't. May not look like that on camera, but me going like that, it's like I'm really stretching my arm out. Listen to your heart. Move according to your heart, whatsoever the stake. A condition of complete simplicity costing not less than everything. To be simple is arduous, because to be simple costs everything that you have. You have to lose all to be simple. That's why people have chosen to be complex, and they have forgotten how to be simple. But only a simple heart throbs with God, hand in hand. Only a simple heart sings with God in deep harmony. To reach that point, you will have to find your heart, your own throb, your own beat. I will have to meditate on that. I do want to point out at the bottom of the deck, looking up at me, there was a mention of the playful dolphin in there, is the playfulness card. So as a bonus, because we're only at 51 minutes, I am going to read the playfulness card too, because I feel like that's an indication of how we reach that harmony. So I have to figure out what the hell the playfulness card is in this deck. Um, I mean, that is a fire card, isn't it? But it must be a major. No, it's the King of Fire, I think. No? Page of Fire. So it's the Page of Wands. So we have the Page of Wands here in our reading. So Page of Fire in this is perfect. We will understand how we wield our magic. 54. I say this as I hear neighbors giggling in the background. I don't know if that's picking up on this, but I'll do this for the first part so you can look at it, even though the colors are all kind of blending with the candlelight. Life is rarely as serious as we believe it to be, and when we recognize this fact, it responds by giving us more and more opportunities to play. The woman in this card is celebrating the joy of being alive, like a butterfly that has emerged from its chrysalis into the promise of the light. She reminds us of the time when we were children, discovering seashells on the beach or building castles in the sand without any concern that the waves might come and wash them away in the next moment. She knows that life is a game, and she's playing the part of a clown right now with no sense of embarrassment or pretense. Does she have her tits out? I don't know. When the Page of Fire enters your life, it is a sign that you are ready for the fresh and the new. Something wonderful is just on the horizon, and you just have the right quality of playful innocence and clarity to welcome it with open arms. Perfect. The moment you start seeing life as non-serious, a playfulness, all the burden on your heart disappears. All the fear of death, of life, of love, everything disappears. One starts living with a very light weight, or almost no weight. So weightless one becomes, one can fly in the open sky. Zen's greatest contribution is to give you an alternative to the serious man. The serious man has made the world. The serious man has made all the religions. He has created all the philosophies, all the cultures, all the moralities. Everything that exists around you is a creation of the serious man. Zen has dropped out of the serious world. It has created a world of its own, which is very playful, full of laughter, where every great master behaves like a child. Okay, well, let's do it. Behave like a child. I love you. I hope this helps. Love, love, love. Let's all try to love. Love, 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 love. And happy birthday coming up for a very special person in my life who will know who I am talking about. But I love you all, and I wish you love, and I wish you playfulness and lightness, and may this transition through this full moon eclipse bring us levity, even if it's a little tumultuous in the process over the next, let's say, week. Godspeed. Bye.